I'm Greg.
And I'm Billy.
And we're the Fuji Guys. This great video is going to be on our beautiful new HS20 Super Zoom camera, the EXR model with all its top features. Before you watch this video, you might want to check this one out because that'll tell you how to get started with this. Okay, so let's talk about the top features, and right out of the gate, it's got to be, Billy, it's got to be this 30 times manual zooming, optical zoom lens. Beautiful. Tell me a little bit more about it.
Yeah, well, the biggest benefit of having a manual zoom lens is actually the fact that you can instantly move it to the right focal length, and there's infinite steps. So there's not programmed by the camera in terms of what steps you move on to. You just manually control that yourself, which is a great feature to have. It's also an image stabilized CMOS sensor technology in the camera to help stabilize that shot.
Right.
Let's just take a quick look at some demos of shots taken with this camera at the different zoom ranges.
Great. That is amazing. I mean, we had the HS10 before with the 30 times zoom, so I've already used it personally, and it just, I can't explain how incredible it is to have the ability to go from 24mm equivalent all the way to 720 equivalent with basically a turn of a ring. And as you say, that manual focus is very, very important compared to
and
the
OIS on this camera now is just so much improved over the HS10.
It
helps a lot when it's going right down to that complete 720mm.
Yeah. So obviously with this camera, every camera's got an LCD screen. We've got a great 3-inch LCD screen, but this one tilts. And so if you're shooting up high or shooting down low, but also very important to have on a camera like this, this has an electronic viewfinder.
Yeah, and the electronic viewfinder actually has a built-in eye sensor so that you don't have to push any buttons if you wanted to use the EVF, so you can just stick your eyes up and boom, it switches.
Switches back and forth.
And it's a really cool feature. Let's see if we can make use of this tilt screen by one of these videos here.
Okay, great.
A great feature on this camera is the tilting LCD for the HS20. So you can actually flip it up, which allows you to take pictures when you're above, or you can actually bend it out and then flip it downward so that you can actually see above you and take pictures from above. And again, a nice cool feature to have. Again, it does not flip out, so it's just really a tilt feature that's on this camera itself. In addition to that, there's also an electronic viewfinder that automatically switches with a built-in eye sensor. So if you stick your eyes to the top, it switches to the viewfinder on top, as you can see right there.
Yeah, that really makes this camera a lot more versatile. I mean, whether you want to get down low to your subject or you need to shoot above something, it's an amazing feature. You're even just showing people your images. It's a great way to do it. This camera, besides taking fantastic still pictures, is an awesome video camera. It's shooting full 1080p video now with up to 30 frames per second with this new processor. There's the new feature, of course, while you're shooting movies, you can take still pictures as well, so you don't have to choose. Let's check out a video about the video feature.
The HS20 does offer full 1080p HD video recording with stereo sound, so there's actually two mics on the front there, as you can kind of see. It's done through just really pushing this button here. You push it one time, it starts recording HD video. You can actually take photos during the video as well by clicking on the shutter button, and it still continues to record the video, and then you can stop that.
Wow, that really is now truly two cameras in one.
And I mean, the dual mics just help to pick up those stereo sound.
Quality of the sound is so much better, and because you're manually zooming it, it's fairly silent as well, so great for video. So that's an awesome video function. I mentioned the name of the camera is the HS20EXR. EXR, of course, is our technology that we use on our sensors. We've combined that capability to detect various lighting conditions, combined it with the speed of a backside illuminated CMOS sensor technology, and really you've got amazing new capabilities, including expanded auto scene recognition modes, much faster response times.
Yeah, 27 different scenes it picks up. On top of that, 3 different lighting situations, from wide dynamic range settings to low light to good lighting. Let's take a quick look at some examples of EXR in action.
Okay.
Here's just a quick look at EXR Auto in action. I'm just basically turning the camera on, and it automatically comes up with 27 different scenes that it can pick up. And for this instance here, because it's a close-up shot of this lens cap, the macro automatically switches on. If I do have subjects in the scene, as you can see that, I'll just zoom in a little bit for you to see. You can see that both there's a face detection that detects subjects and automatically switches it to a portrait mode instead. If I push halfway down now on the camera, it then tells me whether the lighting is good enough or not. So in this instance, I have a portrait shot and it's shooting high resolution because I have more than enough lighting. If I were to dim down the lights in this room, so if I were to shut off a couple of lights and give this a try, and maybe take the exact same shot, it may select a different mode as well. So let me just give that a test there. As you can see there, I put my hands in front of the lens. It's a little darker, it's macro, now it's a low noise because it thinks there's not enough shutter speeds. So it needs to bump up the ISO, and it sort of does that EXR specialty in giving you a lot cleaner image when I'm taking that picture.
Well, the camera really is getting really smart. It's doing a lot of work for people now, and doing things automatically to optimize the quality of the picture. That's really been our goal at Fuji all
But of
along.
course, with this camera, it is still manual controls, right, Greg?
Of course, yeah. This camera is, besides being able to put it on completely automatic and having a camera do things for you, very much like an SLR, you've got a mode dial here. You've got your program, aperture, shutter preferred, and even full manual modes.
There's a capture and RAW feature as well.
That's right.
There's actually a button built onto the back of that camera to enable the RAW mode if you just want to shoot a couple of RAWs here and there.
Yeah, one button activation, so people like to switch back from JPEG to RAW.
So let's take a quick look at this video to show you how to use this manual controls on the HS20. Aside from the EXR Auto, the camera also has some manual control modes that allow you to adjust both aperture and shutter speeds. There's a few of them here. The shutter priority, which is the S mode here, allows you to adjust the shutter speed, and the camera will automatically adjust the appropriate aperture. Again, you just rotate the command dial, and as you can see, the shutter speed number changes from 1/4,000 of a second, and I can scroll it all the way down to a very slow shutter speeds again, further and further down. In addition, if I change it to the A mode, that's the aperture priority mode, I then use this dial to control the aperture control. So from F8, as you can see, there's multiple selections for aperture control with this camera. Okay, so that's how you do that. And in full manual controls, where you want to adjust both the aperture and the shutter speeds, first off, it highlights the shutter speeds, so I can rotate this to change the shutter speeds. You see there's a little meter here, and if it's at near the negative, it means your image is going to be underexposed. So as I slow down that shutter speeds, you notice that line sort of moves over. So it's telling me that at 1/10 of a second, I'm going to get even exposure. If I go even slower, I'm going to be way overexposed again. Now, in order to change the aperture on the camera, I'm going to hold the plus or minus exposure compensation button. By holding it down and rotating the command dial, I can now change the aperture as well, and you can see the exposure controls also changed.
That is one versatile camera. I'm going to tell you, between that lens and those capabilities on the exposure and mode dial, that's amazing. One thing I love about our EXR technology, and one thing that people experience all the time, is shooting in wide dynamic range scenes. So it's light in some areas, dark in other areas, and digital cameras have a very difficult time capturing the brightest scenes along with details.
Yeah, normally you get the skies being washed out, or if you're taking pictures in shadow, then there's all black and there's no details in that shadow. I just want to point out one thing, Greg, that some other features on other cameras offer what they call HDR photography, which takes multiple shots at different exposures to create that. But with this camera, it's really just the actual sensor technology that's doing that for you, and it allows you to take that instant shot without having to take 3 different shots. And if you're doing an action shot, it's really difficult to get dynamic range when they're not going to stop for you. So this is a feature that it's built hardware-wise. You take a snapshot, but instead of me, let's just take a look at an example of how that works. This camera offers a wide dynamic range. Again, it's done through EXR mode. Now, in the EXR Auto mode, it can select it automatically, but you can actually have manual priority modes within EXR too. So if we push the menu OK button while we're in the EXR mode, we can switch the EXR mode, instead of being auto, to be selected at dynamic range priority. So we select that, and then we go down. We can actually change the dynamic range features from an automatic all the way up to 1600%. So let's just take a look at some examples shot in high dynamic range.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, everyone's trying to tackle the capability of HDR, but like you say, being able to do it with a single frame instead of multi-frame processing opens it up to any kind of action photography, or just having any kind of camera or subject movement and still being able to improve your dynamic range. Anyway, so let's talk about high-speed shooting. With a 30 times zoom, I bet you can get some great sports pictures, great action pictures. We got some good high-speed shooting modes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got a setting that goes from 8 frames per second, which is faster than some of the digital SLRs out in the marketplace.
Right.
Mind you, we just want to mention that this is not a digital SLR. The lens is fixed, so you can't remove it. But on top of that as well, if you want to substitute a little bit resolution, you can actually shoot at 4 megapixels and get up to 11 frames per second, which is absolutely incredible.
11 frames per
Let's take a look at examples of high-speed shooting with the HS20. And I'm just going to push the continuous button, hold that down. I'm going to rotate the command dial to select basically the best frame capture mode. I'm going to go into the setup of the camera. I'm going to select 8 frames or 11 frames per second, or even 5 or 3. It's up to you. I'm just going to select maybe 11 frames per second. I'm going to set up the frame numbering to be able to capture 16 shots. I can actually adjust this left or right, but I'm going to set it so that it's 0:15. And what that means is when I push the shutter button completely down, it's going to save only the last 15, 16 shots. Versus if I move it over a little bit, you'll notice it says 2:13. That means when I push the shutter button halfway down, it's going to start to capture images but not save them. Once I push the shutter completely down, it's then going to save 13 shots, but also save 2 shots prior to me completely pushing the shutter down. I'm just going to leave that as that. Tap the button to go back in, and I just hold the shutter button completely down. And it's going to fire off my 15, 16 shots and save that to my card. What's really cool, of course, is once these images are saved to the card, the camera bundles the images together so that when you take a look at the preview of these images, you'll notice there's a small little screen down here that shows all 15 shots. So if I push the camera to the next picture, it's not going to really show the next shot unless I push down. And now I can navigate through all 16 different shots. Again, you don't see much action, but because I'm taking a picture of a still subject. Anyways, that's just a quick look at the continuous shooting mode.
Wow, that really is incredible.
That's
I
fast.
remember using state-of-the-art motor drives in the film days, and I think we were getting up to about 3.5, 4 frames per second. So up to 11 frames per second now. That really is incredible. Everyone who knows me knows that I love shooting macro or close-up photography, and I understand this camera's got an exceptional
yeah, and with the versatility of this camera being a 30 times zoom, 24/720, I mean, you can get as close, to about 10 centimeters, which are standard point and shoots, but you can actually get right down to about 1 centimeter from a subject. So if you're doing extreme super macro close-ups, really cool feature to have. Let's just take a quick look at that. The HS10 offers a great zoom range from 24 millimeters all the way to 720 millimeters, but you can also take close-up shots all the way down to approximately 1 centimeter away in the super macro function. In order to do that, we can be in any of these modes like program auto, and basically by pushing the macro button on the back of the camera on the dial here, we push it a couple of times, we select super macro or macro. So macro allows us to get approximately 10 centimeters away, and super macro allows us to get to about 1 centimeter away to get proper focusing. So, I can actually go right to my finger and actually get a focus in that mode.
Ah, what great detail. That's
Absolutely.
amazing. I love getting close up to the subject, and when you can get that close with this good of a lens and a sensor, magic. I had some fun last summer using our new Motion Panorama 360 feature, so 360-degree panoramic photos. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's just on a dial. You just shoot one time. It just stitches it 360. You can actually change the different angles if you didn't want to shoot 360s. Let's take a look at the demo.
Movie?
Yeah.
Okay, let's check it out.
A very cool feature in this camera is this Motion Panoramic 360 that will allow you to swing the camera around in 360 degree to capture a nice panoramic shot. To do that, you would change the dials to the panoramic mode, or panorama mode right there. And of course, it comes up with a screen. You can actually change a couple configurations in terms of the direction you want to film from left to right, or right to left, down up, or up down. You can also change the angle by pushing to the left. By pushing pushing down, and selecting, from 120 degrees, 180 degrees, all the way up to 360 degrees. Again, we can change the direction as well, so we can go up and down and up, right to left. I'm going to actually select up to down, and I'm going to use this feature differently in the sense that I'm not going to scroll this way, but I'm going to switch my camera vertically and rotate from left to right this way instead. And this is actually going to give me a higher resolution while shooting in the Motion 360 panoramic mode.
Wow, that's cool.
It is a cool
You
feature.
automatically start thinking of all the cool subjects that you can use that for once you find out there's a feature
I'm just
like that
thinking
on
in my
the
head,
camera.
real estate agents, ideal to sort of show the room.
Yeah, and any vacation
Yeah.
you're on, any kind of scenery picture, that's really amazing stuff. So, we talked about the movie feature, the fact that it's 1080p, full HD, and up to 30 frames per second, but that's at that high resolution. You can use lower resolution and do high-speed movie. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you can get up to about 320 frames per second. So if you have a golf buddy and you wanted to check out his swing and make fun of his swing, in fact, you can actually just enable it through the to the setup in the movie mode, and basically freeze that at 320 frames per second, which is incredible. Let's just take a look at that demo. The HS20 offers, of course, full HD video, but it also can offer you a high-speed video mode that shoots up to about 320 frames per second. Now the camera defaults just to the regular video mode, so in order to change that, we've got to go into the menu system, and then we're going to scroll down until we see movie mode. We're going to select that, and then we're going to select from this list. It's kind of hard to see there because of the glare. Right down to high speed, 320 by 112, 320 frames per second. We're going to select that. We're going to push display back to get out of that, and then we can actually push this button to start recording.
Wow. Again, you
cool?
can start thinking of all these cool subjects. I think people should get more movies of their kids like that. Can you imagine just anything,
yeah.
having seen them, watch them do that, play it back in slow motion. Anyway, really incredible feature. That's amazing. Talking about kids and trying to follow them around, because most of the time you're using these cameras on autofocus, sometimes they're not necessarily always staying in the center of the frame. There's a tracking autofocus feature on this camera, though. Tell me how that works.
Yeah, the tracking autofocus allows you to frame the whole scene, and your subject moving within it. You actually don't have to pan the camera. The camera will track the moving subject, which helps to reduce the amount of time that the camera takes to focus on the subject because it's already pre-focused.
So if my subject starts running towards the camera, if he's already locked in, the focus will be adjusting all the time?
It's going to constantly be adjusted, and so when you push that button, it shoots. So let's just take a quick look at how that feature works. If you try and take pictures of a moving subject in the scene, the HS20 offers what's called a tracking autofocus feature that helps you track moving subjects within the scene. In order to turn that on, you need to be in other modes other than EXR auto and scene position. So I have it set to the program auto mode. And then on the side here is where the controls are. So I want to switch the autofocus functionality. And by holding that down, I can of course rotate this. I can select tracking autofocus. So I'm going to let go of that, and now it's selected. And as you can see, the screen actually changes a little bit in terms of the cursor, and it tells me to push to the left to start the tracking. So let's say I wanted to track that chair. I'm going to push the direction pad to the left, and as the chair moves, you can see the actual green icon starts to continually track that chair.
Well, that's great, because it's been one of the problems trying to follow subjects that keep moving closer and further from the camera, and trying to get the camera to lock focus in. Sometimes people get their best pictures, but they're out of focus because someone's moved closer, so that's amazing. We also have a couple of multi-frame processing type features. One's called ProFocus, and that's supposed to give you the effect of shallow depth of field. Because this is a smaller sensor camera, it's hard to get that true shallow depth of field, but we've got a great way of doing that. And then there's also the Pro Low Light mode. When you do get into low light and you're taking a static scene, you can take 4 frames and they basically put them together so you have very, very low noise. Can you show us how those work?
Yeah, let's take a quick look at that little ProFocus Pro Low Light demo. Again, you got to set the cameras down to the advanced mode. And in the advanced mode, you can push the menu button and you can have the 2 options to select Pro Low Light and ProFocus. So in Pro Low Light mode, if I set that up, what it's going to do is it's going to take 3 or 4 shots for me and automatically stitch it together. So again, if I just take the shot now, again, it snapped the 4 shots. It's going to process all 4 files and then give me basically a clean image of that scene. So if you want improved low light capabilities, the low light ProFocus mode Pro Low Light mode is actually a great feature to get very clean images. The option, of course, is the other alternative, of course, is shooting in the ProFocus mode. Again, I'm just going to go into the menu, and instead of selecting Pro Low Light, I'm going to select ProFocus. Tap my shutter just to get back out. This number tells me how many shots I want to take, or how blurred the image is going to be. So I can adjust it, of course, by using the command dial here. By rotating it, it's going to set it to 3. And if it can't do it, it's going to tell me it can't create the effect. And sometimes you want to just zoom in a little bit so that it does have it. And so there we go. I'm going to take a snapshot of my little bobblehead. So it takes 3 shots. If you look at the screen carefully, you notice the background does blur a little bit. And if I play that back for you again, you have that sort of SLR-like look versus a non-ProFocus feature. So if I zoom in on that image, as you can see, the background is just a little bit more blurred, and it gives me that sort of shallow depth of field look on my images. So that's a quick little tip on using the 2 advanced features of the HS20.
Wow. So even this isn't a DSLR camera, between having these kind of processing features on them and all those other features, it's starting to seem a lot more versatile to me than a DSLR. And for all of our fans of Fujifilm, I mean, we know that we love everyone that still uses film, but not too many people do. But some people really miss some of the things that you could do with film, like different films had different characteristics. Yeah, of course, we had films that with higher saturation, like our Velvia slide film.
Yeah. We had Astia, which is great for low portrait,
Yes, and Provia, which is more of a kind of a standard neutral tone. And then, of course, people like to switch to black and white film. Anyways, point is, on this camera, there's a film simulation mode that lets you try any film for any shot that you take.
Here's some examples of those shots.
All right.
The HS20 offers a few film simulation modes similar to professional films that Fujifilm offers. Let's go and change some of the film characteristics. We're going to select either a program auto mode or any other modes. It doesn't really work in the EXR mode. Then what we're going to do is push the menu OK button to access the menu. We're going to scroll down until we see film simulation and select that. And we have different options there. We got Provia, or basically standard 35mm film characteristics. We have Velvia, which is great for landscape. It's more punchier, more contrast. There's also Astia film, which is, again, making more of subtle contrast, subtle colors, something good for portraits as well. And then we have the black and white option as well as sepia tone. So let's take a look at some examples of these modes.
So these are some great advanced features, some videos, instructional videos on this camera. I just want to remind everyone out there that we've got a lot of great videos on our cameras as well as photo tips. We'd like you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please ask us questions, give us feedback, and if you want, you can follow us on Twitter as well. And so until the next video, I'm Greg,
And I'm Billy.
and we're the Fuji Guys.